Welcome, everyone, to the Auram podcast this beautiful Saturday morning. I'm your host, Anthony Kuria, and welcome to the show that discusses everything regarding human capital. The Auram podcast is hosted by Auram Consultants, who are a HR and risk advisory firm where we help businesses build winning teams. Today, we continue with the same discussion that we've had since the beginning of this month, and I'm joined with a very capable group of professionals. All of them, their titles end with expert or specialist or consultant, telling you how much we at our consultants work to enable you, our listener, to be able to get the very best in regards building winning teams. I am with my co-host and the lead consultant here at Aurum Consultants. Her name is Zipporah Kuria. Welcome, Zippy.
Thank you, Anthony. Good morning, everyone.
Yes, in addition, we have a colleague here at Aurum Consultants. She's also a HR specialist. Her name is Doreen Wanja. Welcome, Doreen.
Thank you, Mr. Tony. Good morning, viewers. Welcome to this week's podcast. I hope you guys are enjoying your weekend, and I look forward to helping you and everyone else learn something new.
Brilliant. Thank you, Doreen. And our, I keep saying a consultant needs a sounding board, somebody out there. Our colleague Martha Tuku, the HR specialist, who is also the group human resource manager at LVCT Health. Welcome, Martha.
Good morning, viewers. I'm so sorry my camera won't go on this morning, but I'm excited to be here. And I'm excited to say I work with LVCT Health. As I said last week, we even as we support the government in matters HIV, also do a lot of support to the community in the areas of mental health, and now there's a new kid in the block called safeguarding, and it's a requirement now for all organizations to have a safeguarding policy. And because of this, LVCT Health is leading in even training what this is and how you can put it in your organization. So we said safeguarding has to do with matters respect and discrimination and even many things concerning discrimination. So should you want us to support your organization, please reach me out through Oram Consultants and we will be able to engage you further. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you for that. Indeed, here at Arab Consultants, our work, as we said, is to help build winning teams. And indeed, we collaborate with someone like Martha on the same. So, we've been discussing this month on issues regarding employee discipline and management. We've brought a wide array of issues. We've discussed areas where things need to be done better because at the end of the day, discipline management is less to do with punishment and more regarding how to handle matters in a sensible way, in a in a manner that is more preventative than reactive. Last week we discussed the role of a manager in employee discipline management. And we discussed several areas where we say the manager is the first person to deal with the disciplinary issues. We say that supervisor or manager must be trained to understand the process of discipline management. Because before you bring in HR, before you tell HR this person is doing XYZ, you as the supervisor, you as the manager must be able to handle the issue fast before you now decide to escalate it and bring it to the HR department. And managing it at your departmental level can handle issues better. And basically, because you're dealing with human beings, you'll be able to handle things before they escalate. Some of the issues may be just somebody going through personal challenges and therefore bringing issues into the workplace. Today, we want to discuss the onboarding process and how it affects discipline management because the onboarding process is crucial in ensuring that your newly hired individuals are onboarded with your company's mission, vision, and values, and even culture together as they get into their job. And therefore, this helps to ensure that your new employees feel comfortable and integrated, which goes a long way to prevent disciplinary matters. Now, Zippy, let's start. Today we are just discussing. Let's begin with understanding how does the give us an overview of onboarding and just why is it important in this matter.
Thank you, Anthony. Good morning, everyone, again. Apologies, I have a cold. You will bear with me this morning. Just to give you an overview of onboarding process. This is basically the process or the steps we will take when we bring in a new employee to integrate them into the organization and the systems and how we work, and basically to help them settle in. In simple languages, how do you welcome them into the organization? How do you
Mm,
settle them into the organization? How do they get to understand their way around? How do they get to understand what is expected of them? And this is a very critical conversation because when you look at a lot of issues that come within discipline, it comes from a place most of the time from an employee not understanding or not knowing or not being aware what the expectations were, what are the processes, what are the systems, what are the do's and don'ts. There's a lot
yeah.
of times, unfortunately, as entrepreneurs, we overlook that process. We bring in someone, and immediately, you're an HR or you're an accountant, you're given a computer, you're given an office, and you're left to figure it out yourself. A lot of times, when we don't take them through a process that would help them settle in and understand what the expectations are, then down the line, we start seeing a lot of challenges. Down the line, we start talking about this person is not performing or they're not fitting. But I always want to look back and see what steps did we take to help them settle in? Did we help them? Did we leave them to figure it out? What are the gaps that we need to make sure we're filling in? So, in simple terms, is the way we bring in an employee, help them settle in the organization without using complicated language.
Aha, aha. So somebody has come in. They basically needed a soft landing. As it were, they were flying. They have landed at your airport. Your office, your company is your airport. So they have landed. Do they have a crash landing or do they have a smooth landing? Doreen, you are on the sharp end of this business. Tell us, what's your overview? What's your view of onboarding and why is it important?
Okay, thank you so much, Tony. Um, Onboarding is a very critical process to any employee who is joining an institution or a company.
Yes.
And onboarding entails any activities, any processes in which a new staff is integrated into the organization. And it includes activities that allow new employees to complete on initial hire orientation process, as well as they are able to learn about the organization. So, to me, who is on the ground, as you've mentioned, a good onboarding process facilitates an individual, a new staff, to be able to learn about the structure of any company, the culture, the vision, the mission, so that they are able to integrate very well and they are able to have a pace with which the institution goes with.
Mm,
And for me, onboarding is the key highlight of the employee journey because it stipulates and it entails communicating the culture of the company. And maybe to just point out to our listeners today and our viewers that research has shown that 69% of companies that invest in a good employee onboarding process have reported an easier assimilation of those individuals into the corporate culture. And this corporate culture is what most organizations struggle to create and to ensure that it remains at that level. So for me, onboarding is a very critical process in the employee journey. It leads to very many things, and those things are very advantageous to any employee, any and every employer, because some of the advantages include higher employee retention. You'll find that once an employee comes and they've been taken through a good onboarding process, they will be able to know what they're expected to do because they are given all items that they need in their daily duties. For instance, something like a job description. A job description is very key in and during the onboarding process. A staff won't say, I didn't know I was supposed to do, I was not told. So that's the key aspect of onboarding.
Wow, wow. Thank you, Doreen. I like the statistic that you've just quoted there, 69%. That you have almost a 7 in 10 chance if you onboard an employee well, then 7 out of 10 you have the chance of not only retaining that employee, but you have the retaining, especially if it's a good employee, obviously, and then also the chance of not only that employee being retained, but flowing with the process of that entity. And obviously, you're now reducing issues of people diverting and doing their own things and wondering now why did we hire this person? Where did we make a mistake? Martha, let me bring in your expertise and your long experience in onboarding, and I'm sure you have numerous examples of what went right and what went wrong. Let's hear your view. What's your take on this?
Thanks, Tony. And I agree with my two ladies. So my addition would be that the onboarding process it's like kind of stages. So you have gone through this recruitment process, you have gotten the right candidate, you've done your background checks, and you have given them an offer letter. So from that point, onboarding starts because then you need, once you issue the contract, you have agreed on the date of reporting. For me, you need to send out communication on welcoming the staff and the date they are reporting and who they will meet, those small things. Uh, those things look small, but they are so critical because this person need to know where they are coming and who they are meeting.
Yes.
So that's where onboarding starts. And then it goes through the next stage of what maybe I would call orientation,
Mm,
where then someone needs to understand the organization, the way we do things here.
yes.
So you'll find that orientation will include education on the policies,
Mhm.
processes, and the way of doing things, the standards of doing things. And then now the transition to the role specific onboarding.
Yes.
So you are then given to your manager to now enlighten you on the role specific before you can
Mm,
actually enter into the job and start performing. And what is interesting is that if done well, that process makes things very good for the new hire, because by the end of that onboarding process, they feel they belong in the organization.
mm.
So my as a HR and CP will tell me, for some reason, I don't know why, when HR gets jobs, people don't think they need orientation.
You as the HR.
True. The assumption is we know the processes.
For the jobs I've gotten as HR, me, I've
Yes.
never been oriented.
You are just told sit here, work.
Eh? Unaingia
Uh-huh.
and you
Uh,
start working, and out of those experiences, I've realized that an employer needs to know, even if Tony, you're trained for this specific role, there's
yes,
the way the organization does things. So
exactly.
when I come in and you don't orient me, I can start doing things the way I know them.
Yes, that's true.
And then now you start rubbing off with people.
Mm.
You start hearing comments that you are not a performer.
Hmm.
It's not that you're not a performer, it's because
Yes,
no one let you know that's how we do these things. You know, you
yes,
find someone, maybe you are replacing someone, and
yes.
so the people are expecting you to continue in the shoes of that person who left. And you don't know what they were doing. You don't know how, you can't fit their shoes. So that's
Mm.
why onboarding is interesting, because when it's not done properly, then things are thick. I have worked for the past now about 9 years. I've worked with doctors, and I
Yes.
can tell you that's one area
Mm.
of a career that they don't care so much. I mean, we have given you a job, please
Hmm.
come do it. You went through an interview, you passed. It means you know how to do it. What is so they are very busy. They don't have time to train someone. So, like in my previous
Mm.
employment, we really had to, every time we are taking doctors in one room, to train them on people management skills and why you need to do this. Why do you need to spend time with your new hire
Yes.
in a project? Because
Mm.
you have, like
Ah,
in NGO sector, you have donor targets, and you want this
yes.
new person to help you meet those targets. So it's important you
Mm.
spend some hours with them, explaining
Mm.
and teaching them and coaching them and mentoring them.
Mm.
So by the
Mm.
end of the day, they can be able to be all they need to be for you. So for me, that's what onboarding is. And it's really those several stages from
Mm.
before you come in to the time you're integrated to the role. Thank you.
Wow, wow, Martha, those are very interesting points. Sometimes, you make me think. A doctor treats people, yet, unfortunately, most doctors have the worst people skills, people management skills. I mean, you come in, yeah, you are skilled, yeah, go sit down, talk to people, and you're wondering, okay, so somebody who deals with people needs to be trained on how to deal with people. It's an oxymoron of sorts. It's a bit weird, but yeah, it happens, and and you can and when you think about it, onboarding, when you're bringing a staff in, there is, the way Martha has described it. You've given an offer letter. You've told, "Oh, congratulations, you have gotten this job. Kindly come. Offer letter. This accept it. Come on Monday on this particular day. You come." Now that day, that person comes when they walk in. That is what we are talking about onboarding. For those of us who are not HRs, those of you here who are not HR specialists, to break it down simply to our viewers and listeners, you're basically telling you have decided to hire somebody, so they have come, they are looking like, they call it a deer on headlights. So you are there, you are looking at things, everything. Now that process, if you handle it well and intelligently as an entrepreneur, as a manager, as a company, then you're going to have a much less traumatic. Because remember, people, when you join into a new company, as much as, yeah, they have said you are the man, Tony, you are the man, it's still a bit stressful coming into a new company because you're meeting new people. I remember once I shifted from one bank and got a job in another financial institution, another bank. So I go in the first time. Fortunately, the onboarding process wasn't too bad, but it was still stressful because you're excited, but at the same time, you don't know. You're doing the same role you are doing elsewhere where you were previously, but you're not sure how do they relate with you. What is the functionality of dealing with the supervisors, your colleagues, your manager, your supervisor, your customers. The culture in this new institution is probably a bit different from where you are. Things are a bit the same, but they're a bit different. And therefore, the onboarding process has to be very smooth. Otherwise, we will have a problem. As I said, as I began, this as it were, it's like a plane landing in an airport. So despite the headwinds, it has to land safely. And then when it taxis to bring its passengers, then things have to flow very smoothly. To our viewers and listeners, you can log in, you can get in touch with us. We At the bottom of the screen you will see our contacts via YouTube, via LinkedIn, via email, our website. All those links are available if you'd like to get in touch, if you'd like to send a question, you have a comment, kindly send them in. We would love to get in touch with you because this is an interactive session that we are having. Now, Martha, you alluded, and even Doreen, you alluded about a bit of your experience uh, on with the onboarding of employees. Let me start with Zippy. Uh, what has been your experience with onboarding new employees? How has it been in relation to subsequently how discipline management has worked?
Thank you, Anthony. Actually, let me speak from a place of where employees have not been onboarded properly,
Yes.
uh, just in tandem of this conversation of discipline management. Um, from experience, have interacted with employees who have come into the organization and orientation was not done properly.
Mm,
Onboarding was not done properly. You find there are no contracts, they don't have job descriptions, they don't understand the structure, their reporting lines, and it's very chaotic, it's guesswork, and people are just, doing things to keep moving. And
mm,
I can guarantee you that environment is very chaotic. And I've seen situations where, I've had to sit in disciplinaries and an employee is in so much trouble just to go through the process. And actually in the process you realize something missed somewhere. This employee actually
mm,
does not understand. It's
mm,
yes, they have done something that is an issue that probably needs to be disciplined, but when you dig deeper, you realize there was lack of understanding.
mm,
I have had an opportunity to work with the union, and I think this actually helped me a lot understand the importance of having to onboard employees properly, where
mm,
your systems will be challenged to the core. You will be asked, show me where you have trained this employee, you have helped them understand this, and you
mm,
realize you have nothing to show for it. And I realize it's very important the process to be done very properly. I've been
yeah.
in situations, and because I've worked with Doreen, she'll tell you this, where we have had to look at doing reorientation of employees, training
Mm,
employees afresh for the whole organization, not
mm,
making assumptions, to make sure they understand from the mission to the vision to the values to the processes for each and every department, how
mm,
critical it is to the responsibilities they be given, how critical it is to help them be able to do their daily duties and do them well. How important that onboarding is to help them understand where is the organization going. A lot of times I've seen we put missions and visions on the wall or we'll put it on the web
mm,
and we don't even talk to our employees about it. We make an assumption that they will read. And
mhm,
I've gone for trainings where you will ask, employees, do you know what your mission and vision is? And these are employees who have been in the organization for 5, 10 years. And you'll be
mm,
surprised that they don't know. They will try and think and they're like, no, we can't remember. And it's a serious issue of concern. And as an employer, I would want to understand, do my people understand why we exist as a business? Do they
exactly.
understand how we do things the way we do? And you will realize the issue of onboarding goes down to touching how you serve your customers, how you respond to the community you're working in. Because if they don't understand, let me tell you, they will not be able to serve your customer well. So I will
Yeah.
say in my I've experienced good onboarding processes where the employee is very happy. You are followed up, the first 3 to 6 months, and the employee has settled very well and they're performing to their optimum and they're looking forward to more. I've seen situations where an employee has not been onboarded properly and is chaotic, and there's blame game left, right, and center, and work doesn't move. Mother has talked about HR people not being, oriented when they go to organizations. And I find this
Mm,
sad, where there's an assumption that they should know what to do. They need
mhm,
to be, brought to speed about the culture, about the expectations and all this, so that they are not, it's not a hit and miss, because before
mm,
you eat, you have missed so many times. And
yes.
just to actually say this, it's not just HR people. The HR people are very good probably to onboard the people when they come in and do the first part of orientation. Then you hand over them to the manager. Now, if the manager does not have the people skills, they do not
Mm,
understand, or
yes.
they are, the doctor's mother is talking about, and it's not just doctors. I found this with many managers. Then you will find this employee, was not onboarded at the place of, their responsibilities, their expectations. This is how the department functions. This is where you go for one, two, three things. Then you find it's chaotic, and the manager starts saying you recruited the wrong person, or this person is not perfect. And the only way we can avoid those challenges is making sure our onboarding process is very thorough, is very good. And at the end of the day, it's achieving the main objectives. So we need to go back and relook and see the onboarding process. Is it helping our people, or is it creating bottlenecks? So I would say my experience has been both good, it's been challenging, it's been sharpening of skills and just understanding what is really the expectation of the employee. Remember what Doreen talked about, the employee journey. When you're talking
Mm,
about the employee journey, you're talking about the experiences you're giving this employee. And remember, they're also checking out this organization. Am I going to fit here? If they come
mhm,
and work for 1 month, will they feel I made the wrong move to come to
mhm.
work in this organization? And it all starts with the experience you give them when they come into that organization. So I think
All
that would be
right.
that.
Thank you, Zuki. Thank you for that. You've really, given us, practically what happens when it does work well, when it does not work well. And then when you were talking, this funny thought gave it to me. I remember one time when I joined a new employer, somebody don't tell me where the loos are. I was not oriented. Yeah, being told, dude, that is where the gents are. That is where we have a kitchenette. Yeah, because orientation goes right up to such things. So somebody's wondering, okay, you might find a man going to the ladies because he was not oriented properly. I know that's a bit funny. That's just a bit, but it tells you how orientation has to work. It up to those kind of small details. Doreen, as I said, you are at the sharp end. You are the one who receives people. You hire and sometimes you fire. So tell us from your experience, what has been, from your experience, this issue of onboarding new employees. How has it been for you?
Okay. I'll start by giving an experience that I had in the course of this week.
Mm,
And I'd like to point out that onboarding process, most organizations assume that it's a HR process.
mm,
So the reverse is true. So the onboarding process is a team effort from the HR to the management to the direct line manager.
that's a very good point.
So I had a recent encounter recently where a new hire came to my office to tell me that they've not been inducted departmentally.
Mm,
So that was a gap. So I'd like to point out to our entrepreneurs who are listening to us and watching us today that line managers need to do departmental induction. It is very key. If this is not done, staff, the new hires that have been hired will feel left out. They will feel lost. They will feel, hey, did I make the right choice coming to this organization? And as
mhm,
Zipporah has mentioned, the initial months are very crucial. They are for the institution to see if this is the right decision we've made, and it's also for the new hire to check, am I in the right place? Do I feel comfortable when I'm working? Is this a toxic place? So it's
mm,
two way. Something else about this onboarding process and why it's key. And from a practicing HR, I would like to point out that a good onboarding process, from my experience, it it trickles down to how your employees feel, how they've been treated the first couple of months when they are joining the institution. And
Yes.
trust you me, if the onboarding process is smooth, it will be so easy for these staff to refer their friends, to refer their families, to refer other good potential staff, because statistics, today I'm just sticking to statistics. When the
Mm-hmm.
onboarding process is smooth, the chances of a new hire referring or recommending a potential employee is 20%.
Mm-hmm.
I will once a new staff is onboarded the right way, they will refer a friend, a potential employee, somebody who is good, because you will feel this company has taken me in very easily. They've taken me through the processes. They've taken me through their structure. I know who my line manager is. I've been given all the necessary documents even before I report. I've gotten an offer letter. I've gotten a contract. I know what I'm coming into. So the
Mm-hmm.
likelihood of new hires referring their friends, the other potential employers is 20%. And that is a very good percentage, because
Yes.
if you can't refer somebody to a bad company, that's a fact.
Aha, aha. I like that. I like the practical aspect that you brought in. That at the end of the day, it is a company-wide thing. What you've just said reminds me of my experience, and I'm sure even Martha can tell you, because there was one time Martha and I happened to work in the same financial institution, a large financial institution. You go into a job, you've been hired, you go into a company, obviously you go to HR, yeah, they tell you, Anthony, welcome, yeah, thank you for joining us, you're given papers to sign, and then you're told you'll be working, say, in a next X and Y branch. So they call, tell the manager, the person you asked for is here. So you're told, please go to that branch X and Y. So immediately you leave HR, that's the end. I had no other dealings with the HR. I went to deal with either the branch or the division of the bank that I was working for. It was not the work of the HR. The HR obviously would orientate me, tell me these are the XYZ. I'll be shown the disciplinary, the boundaries that you are supposed to work in. All that is done within the HR office. But now the practical aspect of onboarding is carried out by the division or the branch where I'm supposed to work. If they are not trained on onboarding people, then the work that HR has done is of no use. They are the people to show me, the people in the department or the section where I'm supposed to. They are the ones who will give me that soft landing on the practical aspects of being onboarded. Meaning, as companies, as entrepreneurs, you've got to train your people, your division heads, your line managers, your supervisors, even the rest of the team, everyone. How do you onboard somebody coming in? Because it's the people already existing who who display, who work out the culture of the company. So that's a very important point that Doreen you brought in. Martha, tell us, what's your experience about onboarding new employees?
Thanks, Anthony. And as we have spoken over and over again in our podcasts,
Mm,
everything we talk about employee really begins and ends with A, the management, and B, the organization culture.
yes.
And it's, depends on the culture of the organization. Let me give an example of my first employment in a big bank. And it, I mean, really, it was flowers. Like, you've just come from school, you're so young. Me, I was brought up in shags, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you're put in this big bus, you're taken somewhere in Karen for 2 weeks, yeah,
Oh,
and you have your own room. That's the first time I spent in a hotel with white sheets. Um, you
Martha,
you
you're
know
very,
you have breakfast,
yeah,
all that glamour,
yeah.
and you feel like, wow, where is this? I've come to work. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember those days, just even you couldn't even remove your badge even as you're going out, because you just
Mm-hmm.
want to show people this is where I work. And I can tell
Mm-hmm.
you, Tony, we never used to be paid a lot of money, but people
Yes.
used to think we are paid a lot of money because of the way we were proud
Mm.
of the organization we were working in.
Yeah, that is
So you'll
true. Yeah.
find me in a matatu with my badge, staff badge.
Staff
Because
badge
I
number
wanted
30.
one
Wow.
to know this is where I work. And you can imagine that impact came from the time I joined.
Mm.
So we
Mm.
used to be employed then when we were very young, early 20s.
Yes.
And so it's your first experience in a work environment,
Yeah.
and you feel very good working for that. So what am I trying to say? Positive onboarding helps you be very proud of your
Mm.
employer. I
Exactly.
mean, you want to tell the world about your employer.
Mm.
And now I can dissect to negative onboarding. And
Mm-hmm.
negative onboarding is where you go to an organization
Yes.
and you go straight to the mix, like what we call baptism by fire. And
Yes.
you realize, like these days, everything is instant. So people
Yes.
want you to go and start working.
Yes.
I have worked in NGO for the last many years, and you find the donor targets make people want things to go very fast. I
Mm.
mean, people don't have that time to do things. And that is not good, because I realized anything you do fast will probably not end up well,
Mm. Mm.
because then it means you are jumping some processes,
Mm.
it's like
Yeah.
let's say you are making bread. If that is done fast and some processes are omitted, when
Mm.
someone buys that bread and it disintegrates, then it
Mm.
means that process was not handled properly.
Mm.
And that's where the gap comes in. In my former employer, there was this driver who was on probation, and he took staff to the field, and I don't know what happened, and he spent in a hotel that he paid, I think, 2,000, but he
Mm-hmm.
brought us receipts of 5,000, because in our policy, accommodation is 5,000. So we asked him, what is going on here?
Mm.
He's then he tells me that the project officers told him to do that. So I asked him, what project officers told you to
Mm-hmm.
lie? I mean, that is fraud. He
Mm-hmm.
said that, yeah, they said this is what they do, but you can't catch them. So I
Ah.
just referred him to the orientation on fraud, and then he starts saying, no, me, I never went through that orientation. So NZP
Uh-huh.
alluded to the fact that even if you have trained this, have people understood what you have trained?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm.
because he was on probation, we released him because that was fraud. But he was actually very clear that he had never been told about that. So I just told him, even if it's your home, that's
Mm.
do you have to tell your kids not to steal?
Mm-hmm.
You have to be trained not to steal. You get?
Exactly.
So
Yes.
that's where we came in that. But you can imagine he was saying that he was not trained. So
Mm.
the onboarding needs to happen, and then it needs to be done properly.
Yes.
So even as you do the onboarding, it's important to even have feedback uh, on this, whatever you have called onboarding. You find other organizations, the HR, let me call it orientation, is so good. I mean, by
Mm-hmm.
the time that person is going to the office where they are thinking, wow, this is a great organization. Then they go
Mm-hmm.
and meet this manager. Hmm?
Mm-hmm.
Who
Mm-hmm.
thinks that he is the alpha and omega. And so
Yes.
there's a disconnect between what HR is saying
Yes.
and the manager.
Mm-hmm.
So this
Mm-hmm.
person thinks, from HR, the organization is so good. Once you come to the field, things are so thick. And
Mm-hmm.
so this orientation is important, and not only to the people who are coming in, then the managers also needs to know that onboarding is not a HR thing, like Doreen said.
Yeah.
HR will tell about the mission, vision, values, nini, but the manager is the one who is with this person day to day. The manager
Yeah.
is the one who will appraise this person. The manager
Mm.
who is the one who will recommend this person for promotion or for discipline.
Mm.
So it's the manager role to actually onboard this person and ensure that they are well integrated in their role so that then they can become very productive in the organization. That's my experience. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. Martha, though, that's a very interesting experience. The, indeed, imagine going with a staff badge, unaingia kwa KBS. Back then it was Kenya Bus Service. You still are wearing the badge for KBS for people to see the logo of the institution. If people would do that for Aurum consultants, my friend, I would feel like, yeah, we are really going somewhere, you know. And indeed, that is true. When you onboard people well, when you do it well, trust me, you even create a positive culture of people wanting to be in your company and all that. Our time is really gone. So, ladies, I want us to give a very brief conclusion where I want us to look at what can we do to make it a success. I know we are speaking as HR officers, but we are also looking at it from a perspective of a company. How does a company make it successful? Short comments. Zippy, what's your brief conclusion on the same?
Thank you, Anthony. Again, just speaking from experience and things that I've been able to put into practice, think through the process. What is that process you want to have as an organization when it comes to onboarding your staff members? How effective is that process going to be? And how are you going to evaluate that process? And I think that's very critical. If you can just understand that whole process, thinking through it, thinking about who is going to be involved, how are you going to evaluate the success of this process, and how is it impacting the business at the end of the day. Doreen is talking about statistics. We need to have data of, we have onboarded people, how is it adding to the bottom line with very clear data. And I think that would be a good way of looking at how we onboard our staff and how we can have the system more effective.
Wow, thank you, thank you. That's short and precise. Doreen, give me your conclusion on how to make this process a success.
Okay. For me, with experience on the ground, have a checklist to
Mm-hmm.
ensure standardization.
Mm-hmm.
And how I will do my onboarding is not how Zipporah will do her onboarding.
Ah,
So for standardization, have a checklist. When a staff comes, this is what, as an institution, this is what we do. This is what we induct on. We do our organizational chart. We issue out a job description. We connect you with the line manager. This is how departmental induction is supposed to be. Going around the institution, showing the washrooms like you, Mr. Kuria, showing the washroom, showing the kitchenette where to get a cup of tea, and
yes.
also introduction now to the rest of the team members. So
Mm.
in summary, having a checklist for the onboarding process makes things so much easier and guarantees that information will not be left out.
Aha. Brilliant. Short and snappy. That's if our listeners, that's it. If you're in your business, what you've heard from Zippy and Doreen, now let's hear from Martha. What's your conclusion, Martha, on the same?
So quickly, for onboarding, let it not be a process.
Mm,
Let it be part of the HR strategy,
mm,
and that's where you outline all those things that you need to do, and those things we said that they must be before someone comes in. What are you
mhm,
supposed to do? 5 days
mhm,
before Doreen reports, we will send out an email to Doreen, a
mhm,
welcome email.
mhm,
When Doreen reports, ABCD will happen.
mhm,
After the ABCD will happen, now she needs to be integrated in the with the manager. ABC will happen there. And one of the other things I can add is that you need to look for a buddy. So
Mm.
when this person, like me, I work with organizations mostly where they have field offices, and Doreen, we have sent her somewhere in Kogelo.
Mm-hmm.
She has never
Yes,
been that
I
side.
know
She really needs someone there.
that.
We'll show her, A, where you will look for a house. B, this
Yes.
is where we eat lunch. C, this
Mm-hmm.
is where, if she's the person who goes out, this is where we go out. All those things.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a social life. It's work,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also social life. So they need a buddy.
Mm-hmm.
So some of those things, and as she has said, you put them in that checklist, and that checklist should be part of the HR strategy. Thank you.
Wow, ladies, today we have properly dissected and looked at this onboarding process in terms of helping the company prevent issues later on. And indeed, to our viewers and listeners, if you are like me, if you have been taking notes, you should have been taking notes, because what we have learned today, for a business, this is what you ought to handle. And you don't have to be a big organization like what Martha and I were describing having worked for. No, even if you're a startup, have, the way Dorina said, have a checklist, have a clear process on how you're going to onboard your people. Even if you're small, you have your vision, your mission, your values. Let your staff know. You don't have to have 100 employees, even if they are 10. If you onboard the process well, you will create, the way Martha said, a pride in working for that institution, and then you will reduce issues later. And then remember, this employee that you're onboarding, tomorrow he will be the supervisor, the manager, onboarding somebody else. And because they have gone through the process, then they are able to now take in others. They will be the body that is being mentioned, will take people in as they come in. So, to our viewers and listeners, thank you very much for joining us this, today on this process of onboarding. I'm sure you may have questions, you may have comments. As we've said, our contacts are at the bottom of the screen via our website, email, phone call, phone lines, YouTube, LinkedIn. All those contacts, you can get in touch with us if you have queries that you'd like to know more about from our consultants. How can you help us onboard our staff better? We would love to help you. You get in touch with us, we'd love to help you smoothen the process of how you engage your employees, how you engage new employees, how you do the process of handling it out. And even if inevitably you need to have a proper disciplinary process, our consultants would love to get in touch with you, would love to help you get this process well. As we said, our job here, our mandate is to build winning teams. And the process of doing so is what we would love to help you connect with the same. So thank you very much. As I said, my name is Anthony Kuria. Next week, we'll be coming to the end of the month, we'll be concluding this particular topic of employee discipline. Make sure you join us, because here, as we come to the conclusion, we normally do it as interactive, and whereby you can be able to bring in your questions. We will handle questions from 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 our viewers and listeners, and we'll be able to handle this matter conclusively from all that we have discussed. So until then, take care. God bless you. Make sure you onboard your people well. And if you're being onboarded and you have listened to us today, then make sure you have a lookout to what to see. So with that said, have a good weekend and God bless you. Catch you next week.